All right, everybody. It's time for some honest truth. Obesity is a choice.
Ooh.
I know. That's,
Ooh, I can hear a pin drop on that one.
I know. Now, I do want to say this first.
Wow.
Before we get into it, that doesn't mean it's not super hard to deal with. That doesn't mean that oftentimes the cards aren't stacked against you. That doesn't mean that there are easier and harder situations.
And I would even say
that people don't, and it's not that we shouldn't deal with it with empathy, understanding. But what I said is very true. Being obese is very much largely a choice.
Do you think there are exceptions to the rule?
Very, very little. Medical exceptions.
Like less than 10%, less than 5%, less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Yeah, it's a very, very small. Now, there's a range of sizes that people can come in, genetically speaking. I'm talking about obesity. I'm not talking about 15-pound difference between one person and another person, but rather the 30, 40, 50, 60 plus pounds of body fat that we see now that it's so commonplace. And I know that the argument's, oh my God, this genetics are to play, and that's not quite true. If you just go back 150 years or so, for example, there's the famous pictures of circus. Back in the day, circuses used to have what are called freak shows, and they stopped doing these because they're, kind of taking advantage of or poking fun at things that I don't think we should.
Yeah, deformities and
and it was terrible, right? We'd have like the bearded lady or the crab claw kids with deformed hands. And a common one in circus freak shows was like the circus, what they would call the circus fat man or fat woman. And if you look at these people, we have pictures of them at the turn of the century. These people they wouldn't turn any heads today.
They were like 400 pounds or something. Right?
300 maybe pounds. And today they wouldn't turn any heads, but they were so big at the turn of the century, you're talking about 1890s or 1900, that people paid money to look at them because it was so wild and so odd. And we don't evolve so quickly that all of a sudden our genetics change so rapidly that now being obese is something that we don't have control over. It just doesn't work that way.
I think culturally we've normalized it so much now that, that you don't. I mean, that's why I think that cuts through so hard. Yeah. Right. Is because we're getting so much information about what it is that is actually like something that is causing you to have this obesity, this disease. This is not your fault, like you're a victim of this, instead. And to be fair, like a lot of it is wrapped in with trauma. And so there's a lot to unpack there. It's not like an easy thing to address. Totally. And there's lots of empathy that needs to be given to people in that state. But it should be an empowering message that you can choose to really address it.
That's 100% accurate.
You can have empathy and be honest.
Actually, true empathy and love is honest.
That's right.
It's not lying, but it's not being a jerk. Right. So what I'm not saying is obesity is a choice. So stop complaining and just go take it or whatever. And it's all no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it is a choice. It's hard as hell. Mm-hmm. But one of the worst things that we did around obesity with popular messaging, and the fitness industry is partially to blame, but popular media in general is mostly to blame, is the disempowering message that it's not your fault. That you have no power, I should say. You have no power over it. What a terrible message that we've sold people. Now, why is that the popular message? Because
it sells.
100%. The personal responsibility empowering message doesn't sell bullshit products. It just doesn't. If I'm here trying to sell you a product and I say to you, hey, look, your choices and what you choose to eat and how you're active and your relationship with food, that's largely what will change this. You're not buying anything from me. But if I say, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
It's your genetics. Oh my God, we got this pill though that'll fix it. You're going to buy what I have to sell. If I'm a politician, I am not going to get elected on a message of, hey, this is in your power. Here's things you can do. I'm going to get elected by saying, it's not your fault. There's nothing you can do. But if you elect me, I'll fix it for you. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's this terrible, terrible message. And then what clouds it are assholes and jerks that like to point out the folly in obesity. The problem is when you're obese, your challenges are out in display for everybody, right? So if you're a functioning alcoholic or drug addict or gambling addict or sex addict,
operating in the same room and not know.
You wouldn't know. I can't look at someone walking down the street
sometimes.
and be like, "Wow, look at that shitty husband or bad person," right? I don't know. I don't know that, but I could look at someone who's 80 pounds overweight and say, "Oh, they have challenges with exercise and nutrition."
I think that's why it's such a sensitive topic, right?
Totally.
There. That's exactly why, because it's like you can't hide it the same way that you can hide other conditions or issues, right? So, it's weird though. It's like I don't think that statement. I mean, I was kind of teasing you about my reaction because I know that it'll trigger somebody. But the truth is that just 20 years ago, that wasn't like there was no debate around.
There's a whole lot of controversy there.
Yeah, there was no. But because this idea of health at any size. That movement and that demonizing trainers or health professionals or fitness people that are talking about obesity is like fat shaming. I think because of that movement in that direction, it becomes like this taboo conversation. It's like it's not. It's pretty straightforward actually.
Yeah.
It's like and it again, I can say it without it being that I'm shaming you for it. Like I have tremendous empathy. I mean, majority of the clients that I help most of my life struggle with this in one way or another. It's the reason why what we talk about is not the X's and O's most of the time. It's about behavior stuff,
100%.
Right? And why we recommend that people go, especially if you battle with this and you are morbidly obese, that you see a therapist, because there's normally a root cause of this, and it's not just law of thermodynamics. That's of course the science behind why we got in this situation, but it's not the true mechanism that has caused us to go down this. And so I think you can say those things and also still have empathy.
Look, simple does not mean easy. Okay, climbing Mount Everest. I mean, technically speaking,
requires putting the right foot in front of the left. That's
simple.
Yeah.
Right? It's simple, but does that make it easy? No, it's hard as hell, right? Stopping an alcohol addiction. Simple. Don't stop drinking alcohol, right? Does that make it easy? No. Obesity is a challenging issue, but the formula is simple. And the problem is a lot of people in fitness, they understand that obesity is a choice from that perspective, and they treat simple as easy. Well, you're just lazy, or you're just, whatever. No. It's challenging and it's hard, but that also doesn't mean that it is a choice that you're making every single day. And your choice can be to move in one direction or stay on the path that you are, but you have to empower yourself first. The challenge with being empowered is it requires the responsibility and the understanding that you have control. And that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to look at your life or your situation, something that's causing you so much pain. It's very hard to sit down after, 15 years or maybe your whole life of having this pain and saying, oh man, a lot of this is my fault. Like there was a lot of things I could have done that I didn't do, or there's a lot of things I did that contributed to this. That's a very painful realization. But if you don't make that realization, nothing happens, right? Nothing will ever happen for you. So, and part of the reason why, Adam, I think the messaging around obesity has started to move in the direction you were saying is because we're getting to the point where a majority of people in modern societies are obese. And now when most people are obese, well, the popular messaging now is, hey, leave me alone. Don't tell me it's fat shaming. And I know it's not a choice and it's not my fault type of deal. Because I get it. You don't want to hear it. You just don't. You ever try to talk to somebody who's got a real issue with some form of addiction or dysfunction and they don't want to hear it?
Yeah.
You ever try? Yeah. It's just it's a losing battle, and they don't want to hear it, and they don't hear it, and they don't hear anything you have to say.
Yeah, especially now because there's so many different narratives out there to glom onto that will help kind of feed your justification of the well, this is the identity that now you've assumed. So now this is who I am, and this I'm proud, and and there's all these other things that kind of go in that direction that you can get behind, and it's a whole industry. It's a whole industry of feeding you bullshit in a sense to make you feel better. which, is something that everybody kind of struggles with that right now because there's so much information out there that you can really get whatever it is you're looking for. But what is really truly healthy for you? What is really truly will feed you, sustenance that will then move you in a direction where your body is going to benefit from it, and everything else will transpire.
I think that money and marketing is largely responsible for this messaging, but I also think that the fitness industry is very responsible too. Yeah. I think it's an overcorrection from the shitty job that we've done for the last 3-4 decades. Yeah, and look at how we still do it. We still put bodies up there to show transformation pictures. We still promote this motivation, hype, extreme ways of training and encouragement.
Glorify it with shows like The Biggest Loser.
That's right. So I think that, and I think that's where I have empathy for the people that kind of side with that messaging of health at every size and kind of are pushing back. Where I understand it is that it's a correction from the other extreme.
It's more a rejection of the terrible messaging and all the crap diets. Here's another controversial fact. People who struggle with obesity will have more success hiring a therapist than they will following a diet or hiring a lot of trainers. Mm-hmm. It's the truth, because a lot of this is not due to the fact that you don't know what's healthy and what's not healthy. It's more around the behaviors and what's driving it and how you feel about yourself.
And by the way, too, we're talking about obesity right now, but I think that's this is connected to anything that you struggle with in life.
Anything that you use,
whether it be
yourself.
financial,
yes.
Whether it be the way you talk and communicate to your spouse or your partner, the way you treat your children, the way you interact with your peers. Like, so much of this is rooted in the way you were raised or the trauma that you've been through, and then this is just a reflection of that. It's just another one of those. This person has now just chosen to cope with it through food and overeating or lack of exercise and movement, or the combination of the two of them. But they're no worse or better than somebody who, like you were kind of alluding to early on, that beats their wife or freaking screams at their kid, or gambles like crazy and loses all their money. Like, all these things are issues that are rooted in something deeper than the actual mechanism that everyone's being able to see.
Yeah, I'm sure there's. We have a large audience. Like, if you're watching or listening, just raise your hand if you're perfect. Right? I can tell you right now, nobody is going to raise their hand. Raise your hand if you have a challenge with something that tends to cause you damage or trouble in your relationships or your own health, right? Everybody's raising their hand. So obesity is visible and it's easy to pick on. And if you're a kid, you get picked on for it and you feel not attractive. And then the marketing and messaging is, so I get it, right? We're in an environment, we're in a world now where markets have done such a damn good job of giving us what we want. And what we've told markets that we want is fast, cheap, tasty food. So that's what we have a lot of. And we've also told markets what we want is, I don't want to move. I want to relax all the time. So lots of products and services DoorDash exploded because people like to sit at home. I don't even want to drive down the street to get food. I want it to come right to my door, right? Yeah. At some point, I'm sure there's gonna be a service where they come to your couch. I don't want to walk to the door. We're laughing, but I wouldn't be totally shocked if there was something like that, right? So It's an environment that's challenging. It requires a completely different approach, but that does not mean that it's not that obesity is not a choice, that it doesn't come from choices that you make on a daily basis. And so that's the thing that we need to understand. We have to start there. We have to start with I have a lot of power. Oh, by the way, I'm not saying everybody is going to get shredded. We're all going to look like supermodels. That's not what I'm saying, okay? I'm talking about just generally healthy, okay? Not obesity or extreme in the other direction. I'm just talking about general health. But it starts with people saying, I have a lot of control and power over this, but boy, is this hard. I don't know what to do, and I don't know what that looks like, but I do know that I have a lot of control and power. And you have to start there. You can't start with, I have no control and no power over this, and I am all of this is a result of things out of my control. So, like, where do you go from there, right?
Well, do you think, because obviously it's becoming the norm, like you're saying,
Yeah.
like it's more and more the majority is becoming, the majority is already overweight,
Yeah.
and we're
obese, I
moving-
think, is at like almost 40%.
40% is
Yeah.
what I think I read last. So based off of that, do you predict that will be a motivator to drive traffic into gyms, or do you think that it'll become like, oh, well, this is just how I am, why even go to the gym and work out? So do you think it's going to impact gyms and the fitness space in a positive or a negative or a net, net zero from it?
It depends, and here's what I think. I think if gyms want to be successful, I'm glad you brought that up, by the way, because I wanted to talk about gyms also on some other topics, but along with lines of what you're saying, I think if we start to talk about fitness and its benefits on mental health, I think we'll have way more success, and stop focusing so hard on the physical, visible changes that it provides, which it does. It does make you look different. It does. You look healthier, more fit, more muscle, less body fat, all that stuff. But if you ask anybody, I swear to God, go ahead, talk to anybody who's worked out consistently for more than 10 years and ask them to list the top 5 reasons why they like to exercise and work out. I guarantee you one of the top 5, if not number 1, is the mental benefits. Yeah. I guarantee you. It's not it makes me look good and I like being buffed and I like looking whatever. It's the mental health effects. And I think that's what we need to focus more on. Could you imagine if people worked out just because they knew it made them feel better mentally and emotionally? You imagine the side effects of that and what that would look like?
Just a happier society. Oh, I would love that.
Oh,
it's just like, yeah, I think a mental part of it is a huge factor. And I think with this information, like we just saw one study that finally came out, that proves that lowering your body fat will help, be more resistant towards any kind of diseases out there, any kind of illnesses, and I think that for some reason we forgot that, or like the general population just ignored that fact. That's been around, like we've known that, and we didn't need a study to tell us that, but apparently we do. And so I think with more of these studies finally like kind of emerging and showing people and proving people that if you do make better choices with your food, nutrition, and you move more, you get exercise, you get sunlight, you're gonna be healthy, you're gonna thrive, you're gonna be energetic again. Hopefully that's the push then to put people back.
I mean, that's the hope, but the truth is, media is in the business of attracting eyes and viewers, and nobody wants to hear that. That's work.
Yeah, that's not sexy.
Yeah, it is.
Sell.
But the other option isn't working.
No, you got to make people.
The pill form is not working.
No.
Yeah,
You
but
got to
I
make
almost
people.
feel like
gotta
the
come back to
messaging
this.
around giving those people hope that they won't have to do anything about it. Like, it'd be a better headline and that will get more attention and more views and more people talking about it is, Pfizer comes out with a pill potentially that could reduce body fat by, 2% if you take it every single day for the next 5 years. Like, that's more interesting and will get more attention than all the things that you're saying right now, which is unfortunate.
I think too, when you market fitness so heavily on the visible changes, the physical like aesthetic changes, that a lot of it causes a lot of shame, self, and hate within yourself. Very powerful short-term motivator, by the way, right? If you hate yourself and you feel disgusting, you're likely to buy a gym membership or buy supplements or do something in the short term. Terrible long term. The long term, it fails because at some point you don't want to hate yourself anymore, and so you end up stopping. But a very short term, a very powerful short term motivator. But I think telling people, focusing on the visible physical changes is going to motivate people the wrong way. I think because here's a fact, and this is one that is just, it's profoundly under-delivered, underrepresented, maybe misunderstood. The effects that movement and exercise have on mental health are there's no drug that we have on the market that comes close. Mm-hmm. It's at least as effective in the short term as very powerful SSRI drugs. In the long term, more effective. You don't build a tolerance. It actually keeps getting better, right? Mm-hmm. Drugs tend to not get better after a certain period of time. You have to change drugs. There's other side effects. Right. The side effects of the mental health effects of exercise are you get leaner, stronger, more energy, hormone balance, like all these positive, incredible things. So I think that's the message that we need to push a little bit, which is part of the reason why I said in a previous episode why I think we're about to see an explosion in gym memberships. I think people kind of are feeling that. I don't know if they're super aware of it, but they're feeling like I got to get out and get moving.
Yeah.
And then combine that with, which I think is a negative thing, the new fear around, I don't know if you're seeing the messaging around obesity and COVID, but that's really starting to
Well, that's the
explode.
thing. I feel like, at some point people are going to go back to the grassroots of like what we were initially trying to do for improving our overall health. We all knew what that looked like.
Yeah.
It's not a mystery, it's just been bombarded with this new thing that came about out of nowhere. And all of a sudden now pharmaceuticals are the only answer.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Step one, realize that you have a lot of impact and control over it. Step two, hire somebody that can coach you properly. Therapists do a damn good job. A really good experienced trainer or coach will do a damn good job. And then step three, be kind to yourself because it takes time and it's really hard. And then you'll have the best chances. You'll have the best chances. The problem is in the past, people are like, okay, I have control. I think, let me buy this pill, right? Or let me follow this crazy diet. And then it fails. And then they do it again and it fails. And then what's the message that they get? It's out of my control, right? I can't do anything about it. This is just the way it is and whatever. It's not my fault. And then you get pissed off and angry. And you go in the other direction where you're like, anybody who tells me otherwise is fat shaming me.
Yeah, then you're always in a fight.
Yeah.
Hey, if you enjoyed that clip, you can find the full episode here, or you can find other clips over here. And be sure to subscribe.